Hi, everyone. It's Joe Veneri, the host of Fit Insider, the show where I talk with the entrepreneurs, executives, and investors who are redefining the business of fitness and wellness. Today, I'm joined by Debra Strougo Frohlich. Debra is one of the founders of Row House. In today's episode, I talked with Debra about what it takes to succeed in the fitness industry, her experience building and scaling a boutique concept, and why Row House stands out in the crowded studio landscape. I had a great time chatting with Debra, and I hope you enjoy listening. Let's get into it. Hi, Debra. Welcome to Fit Insider. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Joe. Thanks so much for having me.
Great. Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to chatting. There's certainly a lot to talk about. And to kick things off, given your experience in the boutique fitness space, and specifically I'm talking about Row House, can you tell us a little bit about how that company got started and how you were able to grow and exit that company?
Yeah, absolutely. So my husband and I are the founders of Row House, and it goes back actually to 2008 when we put on just a piece of paper kind of our vision for indoor rowing becoming a thing. We had a lot of fitness experience in a few different modalities, dating back to 2000 or so. Fitness was my original side hustle. I was teaching fitness in New York City in pretty much all of the gyms, doing a lot of fitness media, so some fitness videos, showing up as a spokesperson on TV, and involved in just a lot of weight loss programs that weren't giving people the results that they needed, and cycling, spinning, urban rebounding, a whole slew of different fitness modalities. And Eric, my husband, was also involved in fitness just through and through, pretty much a product guy, an athlete, more on the athletic performance side. So he was doing running, cycling, triathletes, and training people of all different types, a lot of people with diseases, ALS, MS, people with autism, and just a whole slew of needs and conditions and lifestyle related type of work that he was doing and trying to make people live a healthier, more empowered lifestyle. So we had kind of come together and met in the fitness industry, both working for Equinox in New York City in 2005, and just looked at kind of the industry and said, there is no reason that indoor rowing can't be done. It is the most effective, efficient workout that really anybody could do. It's an all levels workout. It's scalable, meaning that you can put in as much as you want, and over time you can put in more. And, it's great for your posture. You're working your core in every stroke, and it's low impact, which after kind of the big hit era that we've gone through, we looked ahead and just thought to ourselves, low impact is really going to be where it's at. People need to stop beating up their bodies. Runners have a huge die off at a certain age. I guess die off is not the best way to say it, but drop off is a better way to say it.
Sure.
Runners have a huge drop off for injury, and, cyclists and spinning, you're not really working your upper body. You're not opening up your chest, working your posterior chain. And so we really wanted to crack the nut on indoor rowing. That was in about 2008. And we said, how are we going to do this? And having been a part of the group fitness scene, we believed that we had what it takes to just bring kind of the best of his worlds, which was really the athletic performance, results-driven world, and my world, which was a little bit more, as we call it at Row House, the along for the ride world, which is, go in, get your workout done, some stress reduction, lose your minds in the workout, feel a great sense of completion, and just put that all together in a great environment and make people use rowing to achieve results, but in a great branded environment that they would really enjoy coming together around. So that's kind of the beginning. In 2012, we actually opened a different brick and mortar fitness studio. It was a hit strength and training type brand. That was our first operation in fitness. My background from a day-to-day had been more in brand building, in the publishing industry, in the tourism industry. And so we just said to ourselves, like, let's, get going with this. Let's do our own thing. Let's come together around this idea. But we still need some operational knowledge first, because we've never had a brick and mortar location. And so we opened EVF Performance on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. EVF is Eric's initials, Eric von Frohlich. And it was meant to be a training facility for him, as well as a place for him to do some of his HIIT and strength and conditioning type classes. And that was pretty much immediately a very, very strong business. And we used CrossFit there also to just build market awareness and figured out just all of that stuff you need to know in a boutique, really, or in a service-based brick and mortar location, which is how to run your operations, how to run your facility, customer service, picking the right vendors, just everything, how to run a 7-day-a-week business. And again, it was pretty safe and successful business kind of out of the gates, and really, really, really strong sense of community. And so we decided by 14 that it was time to open a second one. And the original row house was opened at that time as well. So we launched row house right on top of EVF Performance on the west side of Manhattan. That was the second EVF, and that was the first row house. And they were both dedicated spaces in one facility. So we knew that, if row house didn't work for some reason, then we could always just make EVF bigger. And that was the way that we opened our first row house location.
That's incredible. There's so much in there to unpack, but all of it, it sounds like if you start to break it out, it's really, identifying the opportunity in the fitness space. So having that expertise that you both had. The next component that you mentioned was the kind of operational, executional, how do you run a business 7 days a week, that I think, especially in the fitness industry, when it comes to opening studios, folks aren't necessarily thinking about that from the get. They're thinking, I'm really passionate about helping people. I want to help people achieve their goals, whether it's weight loss, sports performance, or, just escapism. So they're not thinking about how to be an operator. And then the two other pieces that you mentioned were branding and community. So if we just break those out, can you dig into like how you came to understand and know and be able to grow the operational expertise, the community building expertise, and that branding piece that's so important?
Yeah, I think it's a great point, and I would absolutely agree with you. A lot of people get into fitness to just kind of help people, and that's certainly why we were in fitness, especially Eric. His thing has always just been really to help empower people and to help people live a better life. And that's just what his purpose is and what drives him on a daily basis. And so going into it with that goal was honestly, I guess what kept us going. But yes, you can quickly become underwater by all of the things that there are to do in operating a business. And so there were definitely dark years, I guess I would say, sure, or times in those early days where, you're just like, whoa, I mean, I'm trying to hire people and they're not really responding to what I'm asking for. I mean, I also had come from an extremely corporate world, and I was trying to have meeting agendas and weekly agendas and all of those types of things and deliverables. And a lot of my staff wasn't familiar with that because that wasn't the world that they came from. And so there was kind of like this bridging of the gap that had to happen in this new culture, and what is the culture and how do you define the culture and all of that. And so, I would agree with you that it's kind of a long road in developing your operational procedures and figuring out your staffing and even just, your finance classes and all of that. We were self-funded. And there were certainly a few things that came out of the dark for us that were shocking, that you didn't anticipate. And so I just would constantly tap into my network and think to myself, who can help me answer this question? Who can help me answer this question? And reach out to a lot of people and pull together on those types of things. And so, I think now at this point, if you look back to Row House even, and you look back to the idea having started in 2008, and now it's 2019, and you look at the past 11 years, now we're at a place, particularly with Row House, where it's been well baked. I mean, we walked through the trenches like every day from that first row house opening in 2014, when people were kind of approaching the rowing machine like it was an alien object and nobody knew how to use it. There were 8 machines in one room. Now we're at 25. I mean, it was a totally different execution, I would say, than there is now, just because we've had so much learning over the course of time. And even in staffing, like, who is the right person to put in a row house class from a coach standpoint? At the very early days, we were saying, well, maybe we should have coxswains, because coxswains are coaches on the water. And then we would bring in some coxswains and we're like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, their motivation techniques aren't really the motivation techniques that group fitness people, are looking for. And so then you'd have to rethink on that. And so there's just been a whole ton of different changes and different things that we had to walk through and develop. And quite honestly, now that fast forward, Row House is a franchise model, and most of this has been really defined for the people that are going out and opening row house locations. A lot and most of all of that heavy lifting is taken off of them. Now, that's not to say that it's not still quite a bit to run a business. But I do kind of agree with your earlier point, which is that most people go in to do this to change lives. And you have to remember that while you are doing this to change lives and you are doing this in an industry that you really care about, and being around the clients is, what probably keeps you super excited and feeling really good about, doing the work you love. There is the financials, to the real estate, to the insurance, to the staffing, to the labor, to, all of that you have to handle on a daily basis as well.
Yeah, I think regardless of the industry, it just really comes down to, and once you get into it, running a business is really difficult. And when you're the founder and the CEO and the last line of defense, and ultimately it all comes down to you, there's no easy days, there's no easy road that comes as part of that. So give folks all the credit in the world for going out there, and especially, in your case, being able to take that, what was 2 initial concepts, and take and spin up Row House into something that, is standing the test of time in terms of being able to put the idea of group rowing classes on the map, then taking that and being able to turn that into a franchise model and grow it. It's certainly been incredible to see, and still growing at this point. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I kind of look back and I say to myself, okay, for us, this is about seeing an opportunity. We saw an opportunity to help people kind of far and wide. We saw an opportunity to help an injured customer that couldn't do other things in fitness. We saw an opportunity to help somebody that was looking for weight loss, somebody that was looking to get back in the game. We really saw an opportunity across the different fitness modalities that we knew really well, and a need for more and more people to do something that was going to give them great cardio training and also really good strength training, and also help them with their posture. In addition, we saw an opportunity to bring people together and to just connect them in a community. Digital has really taken over our lives to a certain degree, and to a great degree. And I actually come from a very, very digital heavy background. And the fact that I even got into brick and mortar is kind of, an interesting thing in my mind. But there's really something special about forming a community of people and bringing a community of people together. And, when you're in the studios, you see that these are people that have Insta friends. They just do. When I travel around and look at the different row houses and the different row house locations, I see kind of an instant melting pot of similar people in different markets. And that's really nice. I think we also looked at kind of learnings from our involvement and our experience with CrossFit. And CrossFit did this really, really great. They were great at building community. And when you're new to New York, or you're new to LA, or you're new to, anywhere, Detroit, and you don't really know how to go out and make friends and stuff, people are looking to fitness communities as a way of meeting people. And that's just a fact. And so it's been really nice to grow a community of just like-minded people that come together and want to be together, because, at the end of the day, this is much, much more than just a workout for people.
Absolutely. And I think like you said, we're only seeing that more and more as people come together around fitness. And in this case, with the rowing concept, having identified that, you said, you saw an opportunity, were able to capitalize on the white space, but also differentiating that from other studios and other concepts, while at the same time being able to package it in a way where you were able to open multiple locations. What went into, thinking through, how do we make this sustainable? How do we make this scalable? How do you put all the operations in place? And then I think more importantly, how do you build a brand and community that stands out and makes people want to be a part of it as they start to look at all these different concepts in a crowded space? How do you get them to come and continue to come to a row house?
Yeah. I mean, I guess for us, it almost was a no-brainer because, well, if you go back to what is a no-brainer is that, people have a need to connect with others. And what else is a no-brainer? People know that they need to exercise. What is a big reason that people don't exercise? A big reason that people don't exercise is because it's boring, it's painful, or it doesn't give them good results. I mean, those are three things that I'll just kind of take off the hip. But the painful part is one thing that I have a real personal connection to, because as kind of a weekends warrior working a corporate job during the week and trying to get my workout in on the weekends, I ended up really injuring myself. And so I had lots of different foot and calf injuries and issues. I was wearing, heels during the week. I was running hill sprints with my boyfriend at the time on the weekends. And I ended up tearing my calf muscle. I ended up with really bad plantar fasciitis in my feet. And, I think that there's so much pressure out there to go out and to be fit and to run or to kickbox or to dance. And, there's a huge population of people that just don't do that comfortably, either because of injuries that they might not even know how to pronounce or know that they have, or because they're carrying some extra weight and, whether it's the impact or the gravity pulling against their body on that vertical plane, it's just not comfortable. And so there's a big market, and we all know that obesity is the thing, but there's a big market for people who just want to get back in the game and feel athletic like they once were pre-injury, and or want to get off the couch to begin with and need something sustainable. And so that's been a big passion for us with regards to rowing specifically, is just that this is something that can solve that need. And I completely lost the question, Joe.
No worries. What I was kind of trying to get us towards was packaging the community and the brand on top of just the concept of rowing and boutique fitness. And I think that...
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, so what I was going to say is, for us, for boutique, our goal wasn't to take a client that was doing other boutique things and just move them over to Row House. Our goal was really to speak to a piece of the audience that was relatively invisible. So to speak to a portion of the audience that was relatively invisible because they didn't really have something to do that was sustainable or viable for them. And as we packaged Row House together, we thought about bringing together somebody like my husband and myself, who are either, athletic plus injured, or, you could bring your mother, you could bring your father, you could bring your sister. And so you have that amplifier effect that was also really created by spinning, and bringing everyone together under a workout that would give them those great results, but sustainable results, because sustainability is certainly the way that the industry is going. And in rowing particularly, you'll see people that are way more fit as masters athletes than they are, younger in the day. And so you can row well into the decades.
Yeah, I think it's been incredible to see. I mean, so much so, I had the opportunity to talk to Bruce Smith, who's the founder of Hydro, and he comes from a very rowing heavy background, on the water, competitive rowing, teaching other people how to row. And that sport has kind of been exclusionary in terms of who has access to do those types of things, very Ivy League, upper class type vibes. And then his focus in starting Hydro was getting more people onto the rower. I think rowing studios like Row House has done that in the boutique fitness space. I think CrossFit has also done that. A lot of times people are getting introduced to a rower in a CrossFit setting for the first time. And now it's just becoming another tool in the tool belt of trainers and group fitness and fitness in general. It's been really incredible to see that modality now has become a attractive part of Exponential Fitness. The boutique fitness holding company owns a number of concepts, Club Pilates, Cycle Bar, AKT, Stretch Lab, among others, and now Row House. How did that partnership and acquisition come into play? How did those conversations even start? And how did that change not only the business, but your involvement in the business going forward?
Yeah, so, we really built Row House to scale. That was our intention from the beginning. We wanted to disrupt the fitness landscape, and we just thought that this was something that people needed to be doing. So our intention pretty much out of the gate was to create something that was scalable. And so that meant, making sure that we had trainers ready to be kind of consistently consistent with regards to quality across from class to class to class, and things like that, making sure that we had a lot of consistency in one unit so that we could go ahead and kind of recreate that. And in doing that, we were pretty well known, I think, throughout even the global market because of really Concept 2 was looking at us and saying that these were people that were doing it right. And so they, as early as 14, 15, were pretty much sending anybody who was looking to do indoor rowing into New York to see what we were doing. And there was a lot of interest from a few different parties to see how they could work with us, either through licensing type deals, franchising type deals, private investment. We continued to be self-funded until 17. And so we knew that once we really proved this concept out and went through a couple of business cycles with it and figured out how to attract and retain community, that we would have to find a partner to scale it, to go back to our original goal, which again was to scale this concept ultimately. And so a few different people came to us. We vetted out a couple of different deals. I know there are a lot of people out there that want to go out and raise money, and it is hard because it is a roller coaster ride, of course, but it also really distracts you from running your day-to-day business. But we did that, and really the way that the Exponential deal came about was because as we were looking at a few different options, to go tech with a partner, to go private and continuing, to expand with a different partner, or to go franchise with this partner, we looked and we said, now is the time to do this. Now is the time that the market is really ready for this, and we want to go big. And to do franchising will make this brand go biggest, quickest. And so that was really the reason that we ultimately made that decision to go forward with Exponential, was because we wanted to just get this brand and this concept out and start helping more people through rowing and through the culture of row house. And also, in addition to that, we do have a family. We had a pretty young family at that time. Our children now are 3, 8, and 16. And, they love that we are kind of like the row house family, and they remember that we started from one studio and now we go travel around the country and they see them everywhere, and it's cool for them. But we wanted to have more time to spend with our kids. And when you're in build out and expansion mode and you're spending time like in the playgrounds with your kids, you feel guilty because, it's kind of like you're stifling that growth and what's happening in the market around you. And so in doing this deal and expanding out with Expo, they're handling all of the day-to-day operations, and we don't have to have that guilt and can spend more time with our young family, and ultimately can still see this idea and this brand come to fruition and go out and help more people, which again was the ultimate goal.
Yeah, it's incredible. And it's a huge success, and congratulations on doing that, and the brand continuing to grow. But at the same time, and it kind of resonates with me as a founder who's trying to scale a company, and who's been, grinding through thick and thin, as you talked about, it being really difficult. But there's also that kind of almost sense of hesitation in your voice that like you grew this thing, and, now it's essentially in the hands of the Exponential team. Obviously you're there to support all of the franchisees and the growth of the company. But it's difficult to build this thing and then hand it off.
Yeah. I mean, we would love to help any which way we can. And I think that the franchise partners and the team at Expo know that we are, here for them to any degree that they wish, to tap on our shoulder. And we certainly take calls a lot from franchise partners as they go out into their market and they're trying to figure out how to grow their local communities. That piece of it, the whole partnership business development piece of it is very, very second nature kind of to me. And for some of the franchise partners, they don't necessarily come from those backgrounds, right? They come from legal backgrounds, accounting backgrounds, mortgage backgrounds, so some from marketing and sales backgrounds for sure. And so everybody kind of learns from each other, and it's a cool thing to see. But another thing that I find particularly rewarding is the fact that there are business opportunities now for people who are interested in being involved in health and fitness businesses, and that there's not such heavy lifting to get something going out of the gates. When I started my career out of college in 2000, I wanted more than anything to bridge my fitness and my business interests together. And there weren't really a lot of opportunities to do that. What is that, 19 years ago now, right? Even 10 years ago, there weren't a lot of opportunities to do this. More, if you wanted to work in fitness, you kind of had to go work at a Globo gym or a big box gym. And it's really only kind of been in the last 10 years that there's more and more opportunities to work in different ways in the fitness, wellness world, really.
Yeah, it's really changed the game. Beyond that, it was, like you said, working at a kind of corporate gym or just setting out on your own and hoping for the best. So now being in a position where folks can go in and we're passionate about fitness and see the opportunity, and whether it's a row house franchise or something different, giving them that opportunity to do that is certainly a game changer. And with that, as you continue to support the row house expansion, what's next for you? What are you excited about? What are you working on? And how are you thinking about, or even have you begun to have the time to reflect and start to plan what's next?
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking to some people about this, and I have taken some time to reflect. And it's amazing how when you really step back from just the day-to-day of running and growing something that was like so closely in your vision, how you remember everything that came before. And I've been extremely fortunate to work with a couple of different brands across a few different industries, and to do expansion and disruption in those spaces. And so, I just look back at when I worked for New York City in New York City tourism under the Bloomberg administration, and I look at how we basically rebranded and positioned New York City as a tourism destination to the world. And the way we packaged that up as an asset, and I was involved in selling those assets through partnership from corporates to, littler players, to just basically lift the economy of New York City's tourism. And, that was a really special thing. And I did it in tourism. And I remember at the time only taking that role because I was saying to myself, I still can't find something that I want to do in fitness, but I do want to do something that I love. And I love New York City. I'm from New York City. So this is something I could get behind, and that's what brought me there. And so I think that finding a way to pull fitness and business together in Row House has been immensely rewarding. It was much more rewarding in a way than when I did, prior to tourism. I was in publishing for 5 years, launching digital subscription services. And that was new and innovative and all of that. But publishing wasn't really something that I was so behind at the time. So as I look forward, that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about, what excites me, because it's important to me to do something that I love and to do something innovative, to do something disruptive. It'll certainly continue to be in the wellness space. I think more in the wellness space than potentially even in the fitness space. I'm passionate about hydration and some other things that, I'm thinking through, but I feel like once a founder and once a creator, you kind of always are a founder and creator. So you have to keep going.
Definitely. It sounds like even after the row house growth and acquisition, you're still hungry. You're still hungry for more.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm certainly not, stepping away from Row House.
No,
we still own studios. We still have our EVF studios. And this is for us, something that we care immensely about, seeing through and being supportive of in whatever capacity. But yeah, I do think that, there is a piece of me that's kind of like taking notes on the side and figuring out kind of like what the next thing will be. For
Definitely.
sure.
And with that, and changing gears, you mentioned maybe getting involved in the wellness space, maybe even beyond fitness. How do you think about the kind of development of wellness that's now, you see the headlines, and I'm certainly guilty of, playing it up myself, the $4.5 trillion wellness industry, with everything from wellness tourism to wacky stuff like sound bathing, or more what's becoming mainstream in connected fitness. Just how do you think about the growth and the opportunity in this industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much. I think whenever something pains you to look at it, then it's kind of something that maybe you need to pursue figuring out how to fix. And something that really bothers me and my husband, and we are kind of a great team. And so I kind of see ourselves continue to do things together. But something that really bothers us is when you look at medicine and you look at how quick people are to prescribe drugs over fitness, and how undertrained the medical population is on different fitness modalities as well as solutions. to medical issues. And so that's kind of how I look at it. You know, I look at it and I say, like, there's an opportunity there because nobody's really doing it. Like, how do we figure out how to better bridge or better inform and educate the medical population with regards to fitness? On you know, as another example, it's the same thing from a hydration standpoint. Like, why is everybody walking around dehydrated when it's really not that hard to have better mood, better, you know, so from an emotional standpoint, from a physical standpoint, from a beauty standpoint, even to be better hydrated? You know, why are we still kind of in this state where people don't understand the importance of hydration? Like, how do we solve and crack the net on that? So I think there's a lot of different opportunity out there, but it kind of has to start with to really disrupt it. It has to start with like a personal plight to do it. Eric, my husband, is really, really interested in posture. I'm a little less interested in posture. It doesn't mean that there's not a huge market opportunity there, but you know, I think it goes back to just personal connection to solving a problem. And that's how I think we'll continue to look at the market.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I agree totally that there's a lot of, on the kind of healthcare side now, big movement towards direct-to-consumer healthcare, and a lot of that is just become prescription medication. So figuring out how to get prescriptions to people easier and faster and building a cool brand around it, but not a whole lot from the how do you have fitness as an intervention in that process. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out over time.
Right. And, you know, there's still something where a lot of people on the fitness side will say, you know, consult your doctor. And then you consult your doctor and your doctor will say, oh, no, don't do that. And so even less about fitness intervention and more about just fitness awareness. Like, what are we telling people not to do and why?
Right. I couldn't agree more. It's a whole can of worms that we could go down on another hour conversation just around that. But knowing that we're kind of coming up on the end of time here, I wanted to get you out of here on this question, which is thinking about, you know, so much of the conversation we had has centered on identifying the white space, being able to build brand and operations around a concept, and people that are in the fitness industry or aspire to be in the fitness industry, but might not know how to get started. Is there a piece of advice that you have for somebody who's an aspiring fitness professional who wants to maybe start a business, open a studio, open a second or multiple locations, to kind of help them navigate on that journey?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I would say, you know, you really have to open your eyes to what you're going to go down. And to do that, the best thing is to talk to a lot of different people at various different stages. I think one of the biggest mistakes is just to, you know, be, perhaps the best way to say it is ego driven. And my way is kind of like the way I'm going to do it. And I'm going to block out all the ideas and whatever, because then you're not prepared. And nobody can tell you what the best thing to do for yourself is. And I've seen people out there and they're at 1 and they want to open 2 and they want to open 3, and that's fine. You know, and I'm not going to convince them that that's not the path that they should take. You know, for some that may be a great path, and for others going down a franchise path might be a great path, and for others just being employed by somebody so that they don't have to worry about the things like, you know, the bills and the taxes and the payroll and all of that may be a better solution so that they could be more connected to the consumers. So I think it's a very personal choice, but I think that to make that personal choice, you are best suited to really just be open-minded and to talk to a lot of different people at various different stages, and really just to spend time doing that, like spend a chunk of time doing that before you make a decision, so you could be open-minded and absorb everything that they say like a sponge before you decide what's best for you.
I think that's hugely important. I think it's really, really thoughtful to approach it from that perspective, and kind of to have somebody who's done it in your position share that, versus, you know, a lot of times what happens when folks are seeking or giving advice, they're giving it through the lens of, you know, potentially what's best for them or what served them. But I think that piece of advice, which is, there is no one right answer, is, it's open-ended in a way, but it's also refreshing to hear someone say that versus like trying to have that surefire answer that applies to everybody across the board.
Yeah, I don't think there's any surefire answers in life, are there?
No.
I don't know.
I think it's...
I don't know. Let me know when you're recording that podcast.
Yeah, right.
I'll be...
Everybody will tune in for sure.
Yep, for sure.
Great. Well, I think with that piece of advice in mind and certainly thinking about all the accomplishments you've had with Row House, and certainly as you start to think about what's next, is a great place to wrap up. And we'll certainly be keeping an eye on what develops next and get you back on here when you're ready to launch the next business or project.
Well, thanks so much, Joe. I've been enjoying listening to all your podcasts. So I will be listening to you all the time.
Thanks so much. I appreciate you making time.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone for listening to today's episode. For more from Fit Insider, visit insider.fit.co and subscribe to our weekly newsletter for insights and analysis on the business of fitness and wellness. Then go ahead and subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. See you next time.